Hey, Slater Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world. Thanks for being here. The Republican governor of Arkansas said that the chemical castration of children is health care. Health care. Puberty-blocking drugs for children is allowed in Arkansas, deep, dark, red Arkansas. What in the world is going on to our country? Asa Hutchinson, that's his name. He's a Republican. He was on Fox News last night on Tucker's show and got destroyed. My big takeaway of the whole thing is that so many Republican leaders are such absolute cowards. And this is so frustrating because you as a conservative, you get it, of course, from the left, and we'll highlight that in just a second. Of course, you're going to get it from the left, but you also got to deal with absolute betrayal from within the party. So here's the true story. Asa Hutchinson, governor in Arkansas, red state. Last election, Trump beat Biden 62-34. All right? That's a red state. If that's not a red state, there ain't any red states. The state legislature passed a bill. The bill bans minors, this is a key, minors, kids, from receiving hormone replacement therapy or puberty blockers and then other hormones, which is chemical castration, and bans surgery, actual surgery on kids. So just to be clear what we're talking about here, a young girl thinks she's a boy, goes to some quack doctor who gives the girl puberty blockers, which will have physical, permanent ramifications for the rest of their life. They do this because the idea is from the left here is that if you just give a child puberty blockers, then when they get older, then they can decide what gender they are and pick accordingly. Or if it blocks the development of their genitalia, then it's easier to have surgery when they're older. That's the medical reasoning behind this. The left calls it, oh, we're just pausing puberty. That's it, we're just pausing, it's just a little pause. No, you don't pause puberty. You're not God. You can't fine-tune this process to the point where you're like, oh, you're ready to go back to being a girl? Oh, wonderful. Let's just give you the exact precise dosage of estrogen now, and then everything will develop just as planned now that you figured out you are actually indeed a girl. That's not how that works. So it's puberty blockers, hormones, and then again, this bill banned gender reassignment surgery for kids. Minors, we're talking. I don't know any conservative who's against these surgeries or who's for outlawing these surgeries or even the hormones for adults. I've never heard any conservative argument against it. You do whatever you want. You're an adult, you can do whatever you want. You can go cut your genitalia off with a rusty kitchen knife for all I care. I literally don't care at all. But we're talking about kids here. That's a completely different ballgame. So the legislature passed this bill banning these things, and the governor, the Republican governor, vetoed it. Now, the Arkansas legislature is going to override the veto, but still, what the heck? Now, let me say this before we get started here, because you may be thinking, Slater, this transgender stuff, you talk about it a lot. Who cares? Who cares about all this transgender stuff? No. I believe it is of the utmost importance. Transgenderism is the ultimate progressive issue, because if they can convince you and humiliate you into saying that you can switch genders and change genders and ultimately gender doesn't even exist, if they can humiliate you into saying that, then nothing exists, right? The left, they got a majority of people in this country to say that marriage is not between a man and a woman. They've redefined marriage. That's not enough for them. They got to redefine gender. And once they've done that, once they've humiliated you enough to go along with that, there's nothing left. Honestly, if you're a dad and you watch or are okay with whether it's your kid or some other kid switching genders and getting surgery, having a double mastectomy, if you're gonna stand back and watch that happen, what line are you ever gonna draw on anything? Really, what line are you going to be like, whoa, that's a little too far, progressive march through our culture? There's nothing. This is the line. You draw this line now. So that's why this is a hill to die on. This is a line in the sand. You, conservative, you, Democrat, you, sane, rational person, you need to be the adult to stand up and say, no, you cannot change into a boy or change into a girl. You have gender dysphoria. It's a mental disorder. It's listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders called DSM-5 from the American Psychiatric Association. There's no shame in having gender dysphoria. You're not a bad person for having gender dysphoria. And we want to help you become comfortable with who you are. And we're going to do that through therapy. Die on this hill, conservatives. Die on this hill. All right. When he vetoed the bill, when the governor of Arkansas vetoed the bill, he said this. He said, this bill is denying the best medical care to transgender youth, which can lead to significant harm to the young person from suicidal tendencies. Medical care. First of all, the idea of transgender youth, like what? But medical care, we're calling this medical care? Medical care. Puberty blockers, medical care. Double mastectomy, hysterectomy, medical care. He said it should be a decision between the parents and the doctors. That's what the left says when they support abortion as well. Oh, listen, I don't have a say in this. Men shouldn't have a say. I shouldn't have a say. Who am I to say? No one should say. This is between a mother and the doctor. No. The role of the state, arguably the most important role of the state, is to protect minors. To protect minors who can't protect themselves. That's true of the baby in the womb. That's true of the 12-year-old who thinks he's a boy and goes to some quack doctor who's like, oh yeah, here's a bunch of puberty blockers. So you're getting attacked, again, from the left, but also from fellow Republicans. Again, Asa Hutchinson, governor of Arkansas, Republican. While in some instances, the state must act to protect life, the state should not presume to jump into the middle of every medical, human, and ethical issue. This would be and is a vast governmental overreach. Now, the left says little girls and little boys can't drink alcohol, can't get tattoos. Some states, little kids can't go to the tanning bed. Kids can't get married, kids can't smoke, kids can't go to strip clubs, kids can't even go into bars. Kids can't have sex with adults. What we're talking about here with transgender puberty blockers and this is like light years different than letting a 17-year-old drink, right? But we don't let a 17-year-old drink. Now, maybe there's an argument that we should let 17-year-olds drink. Fine. I'm talking about permanent, unalterable, physical damage that we're doing to kids. That is a line that every libertarian should be able to draw as well. You want to let 17-year-olds drink alcohol? Fine. You want to let a 17-year-old get a tattoo? Fine. You can be a libertarian and think that, but you cannot, even the libertarian position needs to draw a thick, broad, bold line that the state should not allow people to engage in permanent behavior, permanent, unalterable change in children. Physical change in children. Oh, but the parents should be in charge. Yeah, we don't let parents sexually abuse their kids. So there is a line. You've agreed there's a line. Should we let parents sexually abuse their kids? No? Okay, good. So there's a line. There's a role for the state. Permanent change to the physical health and being of a child. That's a line we should all draw. Fair? And to say that a kid is wise enough to make these statements, it's insane. We've declared that a 15-year-old is not wise enough to make a permanent decision about a tattoo on their body. But we're going to let kids and their confused parents and their deranged doctors make massive lifelong decisions about their gender? No. So back to the Republicans being the worst, because that's my main point here. Look how this is framed. Right? Look how it's framed. You're attacked on both sides. You're attacked from the left, and you're betrayed from within by many of these Republicans. Check this out. This is from someone on the left. This is Zeke Miller. He's the White House reporter for the Associated Press. Okay? So this is someone on the left. And of course we're going to come at it. Someone from the left's going to come at us in this direction, right? So there's Arkansas lawmakers enact ban on gender confirming treatments. Gender confirming. That's it. It's gender confirming. Listen, remember we talked about this weeks ago, how the left spins this all around. Imagine this scenario. Your daughter comes to you. Your daughter comes to you and says, I want to be a boy. If you, as the father, help your daughter to become comfortable as a girl, then you are attacked for engaging in gender conversion. You with me? Your daughter comes to you and says, Daddy, I want to be a boy, and you help your daughter be comfortable in her skin as a girl. That is gender conversion. Oh, look at you, evil conservative, forcing your daughter into gender conversion. You're like, no, she's a girl. But if you pump your daughter full of puberty blockers and then testosterone and make her sterile for the rest of her life and remove her breast and uterus, that's gender affirming. All right? That's coming from the left. Bad enough, right? But then you're flanked from the right as well, from Republican leadership. And you get language like Asa Hutchinson saying that, oh no, this is the limited government stance to take. Listen, I'm like Ronald Reagan over here. Here's Asa on Tucker Show last night.
I go back to William Buckley. I go back to Ronald Reagan, the principles of our party, which believes in a limited role of government. Are we as a party abandoning a limited role of government and saying we're going to invoke the government decision-making over and above physicians, over and above health care, over and above parents?
Tucker's got a great face when he's listening. Healthcare. Calls it healthcare. Again, I believe in many libertarian principles. Libertarian principles should have a prominent place in the Republican Party among conservative principles. Tons of overlap here, all good. Children are a very different standard. You cannot sexually abuse your children. You cannot physically abuse your children, even if they're your children. And you should not be able to castrate your children, even if they're yours. And even if your 12-year-old really, really, really wants to. So you as a Republican, you're getting attacked from the left, of course. But then we got great conservatives like Asa Hutchinson ready to defend your conservative values and let quack doctors mutilate and castrate children. Fantastic. Coming up next, I want to talk about why it's so difficult to change people's minds and have your mind ever changed. And I want to tell you that the group of people that it's most difficult to have their minds changed. It's the exact opposite of what I would have thought. Got that coming up next. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders. I want to talk about virtue signaling versus truth. When it comes to this transgender issue, most people who aren't really following this stuff like you are, they're trying to figure out what team they're on, right? And most people think, oh, Republicans are mean, Democrats are nice. That's the general perspective of most average people walking around, right? If you're, Republicans are what? Mean. Democrats are what? Nice. Or, oh, if you're nice, what party do you belong to? Like, generally, that's what people think. So when it comes to transgenderism, oh, I want to do the nice thing. So therefore, I'm going to support trans kids. Yeah, okay, fine. But what's the truth? Does anyone care about the truth anymore? Does that matter at all? I came across a new term the other day, and I want to share it with you. It's this idea of master truth. Master truth. So when someone lies, Joe Biden these last few weeks about the Georgia bill, for instance, or 60 Minutes and the DeSantis story out of Florida, right? When they're lying, they don't care, / they don't even think they're lying because it's all about the master truth, right? Yeah, maybe they're lying, but these are just like little details around the end. It doesn't matter because it's all in compliance with and to support the master truth. And the master truth is that Republicans are mean, or maybe more specifically, Republicans are white supremacists, right? Depends what you're talking about exactly, like a racial thing or whatever. Generally, I guess the category is Republicans are mean and the bad guys. So like details, whatever, doesn't matter. Is what I'm saying supporting the master truth? And if it is, then I'll do whatever it takes to get there. Details don't matter. So they can come in and say these lies about the Georgia bill or whatever it is. And we come back and we're like, whoa, 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 that's all wrong. Here's what the bill actually says and go into great detail. They don't care because they're here to protect the master truth. I want to talk about how difficult it is to change someone's mind for the rest of the segment here. So I wrote a book, a very, very short, more of a pamphlet really, a couple years back, called How to Change Someone's Mind. It's about how to change someone's mind. Someone once asked me what it's about. I said, I was really trying not to be clever. It's about how to change someone's mind. It's on Amazon. It's $5 if you're interested. But I'll tell you right now, it's difficult. In a way, I'm grateful for the Georgia voting bill and the DeSantis story in Florida. I'm grateful because any average, sensible, normal person can look at these and the segments we've done on them and say, oh, these are blatant lies. And this is good because now we can start to make some cracks in people's trust in the media, right? Like oh, you trust the media? Oh, wow, let me remove a ton of bricks from that wall that you have. Think about it, let's make one metaphor. Let's do a game of Jenga, right? We all know Jenga, right? So the Jenga tower is a person's trust in the media. I don't know the people who still have this Jenga tower up, but many do. Slowly but surely, a couple blocks are removed. The Georgia story, the Florida story, right? A couple blocks here and there. The Charlottesville lie, hoax from back in the day with Trump, right? All these different hoaxes and lies and made up things. These lies and obvious manipulations. Each one is a little block that comes out of the Jenga tower. And eventually, it crumbles. And then people's entire perspective changes because the tower crumbles and they're like, wait, what else have I been lied about? What else have people been lying to me about? And that's hard. And a lot of people don't want their tower to fall. They don't want the trust in the media to fall because then they won't know what to think after that. And that's scary for a person. Have you ever heard of being red-pilled? Have you heard this term before? Red-pilled? So to take the red pill, the term red pill, it means when someone's perspective has been dramatically transformed. So you believe one thing and now you believe like the total opposite thing. It's from the Matrix, as you can see here, right? You take the blue pill and you can remain in ignorance, blissful ignorance. But you take the red pill, you're gonna learn the truth. The problem is the truth is hard. The truth hurts. The truth can be unsettling. The truth can be life-changing. The red pill, if you take the red pill, it means your life is going to be uncertain. The red pill is going to bring a lot of difficulty to your life. And again, the blue pill, well, that's just a beautiful prison. You'll live in ignorance, but you'll live in comfort. In the movie, The Matrix, one of the characters takes the red pill and then chooses to go back and take the blue pill. And when he takes the blue pill, he forgets the truth that he learned. And he chooses this because, in his words, ignorance is bliss. Again, I say this because it's very hard to change someone's mind because my truth, my Jenga tower, or what I believe, it's comfortable. I believed it for this long, it's working for me. I know what I think. And I've made sense of it in my brain. And I'm comfortable with this. And I don't want you changing it. I don't want you messing with it. I don't want you tearing down, taking out blocks where the whole thing may come down. Like stay away. You're gonna come in here and tell me something that's gonna cause me to change my opinion and change my perspective of the world? No. That's scary. I don't want that. That means a lot of things. That means I may have to apologize for being wrong. That means I may lose friends. I may lose prestige in my tribe that I've built around me for safety and comfort. And it's not worth it. I'd rather not know the truth. It's too much work. I'm not gonna listen to your story, because if I do and you're right, that brings too much uncertainty to my life and to my thoughts. And I'm not gonna deal with that. I'd much rather just say, Joe Biden's right about the Georgia bill, Republicans are mean. Whatever Joe Biden says about the Georgia bill, whatever the CNN says about it, they're right. Republicans are mean. Republicans are racist. That's my master truth. And I'm just gonna stick with that. And anything you say, I'm not even gonna listen to it. Winston Churchill, he said of somebody, he said, occasionally he stumbled over the truth. Occasionally he stumbled over the truth. But he always picked himself up and hurried on as if nothing had happened. The mind is a very difficult thing to change, because the master truth almost always wins, because the master truth is very comfortable. Just to drive this home, Rob Henderson, one of my favorites, he said there's two routes to persuading someone. You have the central route, and that is you deliver a message, and that person, under careful and thoughtful consideration, listens to your message and thinks about it. Right? So you hear information and you evaluate whether it's true. Very good. That's the central route. The peripheral route is when you don't pay attention to the information as much as the person who's giving it. And these are the things we look at. We look at how attractive someone is. We literally look at how tall they are. And our brain interprets that, like tall equals strong leader. We pay attention to their credentials, how educated they are, their expert status, whatever. And that is way more influential than the message itself. The truth is, there's a term, the technical term is cognitive miser. Cognitive miser. Cognitive means brain, miser means you're cheap. So we are cognitive misers. It means we take shortcuts whenever we can. Our brain takes shortcuts whenever we can. We exert as little mental energy as possible. And the way to do that is to look at the peripheral route. I don't want to take the central route, because the central route means I need to listen to you. I don't want to listen. So I got to listen to you. I got to interpret. I got to maybe do my own research and figure things out and put that next to what I think and see what's what a hassle. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather just be like, I like that guy. Yeah, whatever he says. Yeah, he's smart. He's an expert. Go with him. What party is he from? Democrat? Yeah, sure, I'm a Democrat. Yeah, what he says. Or other way around. Instead of being like, oh yeah, interesting person, that's a really interesting message you just gave me. Let me really think about that. No, it's wait, are you a Republican? I disagree. Right, that's way easier, because we're cognitive misers. They've done research on this. Someone will give a message, and then people will rate how much they believe it. And then the same person will give the same message, but beforehand they give a little bit of their credibility. And the credibility doesn't even have to be relevant, but people will believe what they say even more, just because, even if it's not relevant. So let me give you an exaggerated example. You could take a room of, let's say 100 Dallas Cowboy fans, okay? 100 Dallas Cowboy fans. And someone comes in and gives a message about COVID. And afterwards, you ask the fans, oh, did you agree with what the person said about COVID? And there'll be a certain number who did and a certain number who didn't. They interpreted the information. Okay, great. Take another group of 100 Cowboy fans. Bring in the expert. And the expert's wearing a Philadelphia Eagles hat, right? Or the guy says he's from Philadelphia and he's an Eagles fan. Or starts off with some casual reference, hey, did you see the Eagles game yesterday? Pff, Eagles won, man, it's awesome, go Birds. And then gives his message. None of the Dallas Cowboy fans will give a lick what that guy has to say. Because it's easier just to dismiss him right away. Because we take the easy route, we take the comfortable route, always. We don't care about the message, we care about the messenger and then how it affects me. That's how it is, unless you intentionally choose to be the type of person who only cares about the truth. I'll say it again. You must intentionally, purposefully, actively decide to be the person who cares about the truth above all else. Most people don't value truth. As humans, we value, that's such a weird thing to say. I don't know, like, as humans, we don't value truth. We don't. We value social cohesion. We value our social connections. We value group safety. So we're not looking for objective facts, because that could put you in a very dangerous situation. That could put you in an uncertain situation. We're looking for tribal consensus, because that gives us a perception of safety. That's what people really want. I got to run here. I'll give my last point here. Who are the people who are most easily manipulated? It's actually not the less educated. You'd think it'd be the less educated, the dummies, who would be most manipulated. It's not true. It's actually the highest educated, the most educated people, because they're the best at rationalizing away the truth from their opinions, right? So they have an opinion, a highly educated person has an opinion, and you come at them with the truth, and they're really smart. So they're able to rationalize that away like a ninja and push it away better than the less educated person. So the higher educated you are, the more steadfast they are in their opinions. And the other group of people that are hardest to change their opinions on are people of high status, because they're the most concerned about how others view them. So they don't want to change their opinion because they may lose their status, and to them, status is the most important thing. There was a study in the Soviet Union, and people who were educated, university-educated people, were 2 to 3 times more likely than high school graduates to say they supported the Communist Party. Why? Why were the elite, the higher educated, more likely to support the Communist Party? Fear of losing your life potentially, but mostly fear of losing your status and your power and your influence within the party. Truth didn't matter. Same thing today. People who are most concerned about losing their job because of their political opinion, 25% of people who have high school education are concerned about losing their job because of a political opinion. 34% of college graduates and 44% of postgraduate degrees. So the higher up someone moves up the ranks, the more obsessed you are with social status, and therefore the more conformity there is. All right, I gotta go. So what do? We have to tell ourselves that truth matters more than anything. It matters more than social status. It matters more than the company you keep. Truth above all else. Because what's the alternative? Well, to paraphrase Jesus, actually to quote him exactly, what good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Coming up next, I'm going to talk about Republican messaging, Republican branding, how Republicans are so awful at this. And when they're awful at it, the Democrats swoop in and rebrand and reframe everything for them, for us. Talk about that next. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders, Republicans are terrible at messaging. They're just awful at PR, and it's so super frustrating. The Georgia election bill is Georgia voter bill is a perfect example. Because the Republicans didn't make any effort to frame what they did properly, they left this giant void. The Democrats and the media swooped in and called it Jim Crow 2.0, Jim Crow on steroids. So now the Republicans are spending all their time backpedaling on the defense, being like, oh no, we're not racist. Meanwhile, the bill it barely does anything at all anyway, let alone being Jim Crow 2.0. And it's so frustrating because time and time again, Republicans just can't get in front of the narrative. John Hart is here. He's the co-founder of the Conservative Coalition for Climate Solutions, and he used to work for Tom Coburn, who was the great senator from Oklahoma. And he has a new editorial called How the GOP Can Reverse the Progressive Advance. Mr. Hart, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Mike. It's great to be on. Thanks for having me.
Man, good to talk to you. Yeah. Do you agree, share in my frustration?
Well, I could not agree with you more. I was joking with my wife that I wish we could subject that to instant replay, that call from the commissioner, because again, it was baseless. I mean, it's a great example of us not defining ourselves and letting the other side define us. And so, not to take the sports metaphors too far here, but I'm a big Kansas City Chiefs fan. I grew up in Kansas City. And, we got destroyed in the Super Bowl. But to his credit, Andy Reid didn't complain about the officiating. Mahomes didn't complain about the officiating. They said, look, we're going to do better. We're going to learn from this. And I think that's what Republicans have to do, is learn from what just happened. We just lost the presidency and the Senate. And let's go back to basics, blocking and tackling and first principles.
Yeah. Before we do the what, let me do one more why. Why are Republicans generally not good at this branding and framing things properly? / why are Democrats so good at it?
Well, yeah, here's the key point. Democrats have an argument that's based on free stuff. We're going to give you free stuff, free healthcare, free education, free money. And so what happens is Republicans get intimidated and they kind of withdraw and they get in this fetal position where they're afraid to fight back and they don't know what to say. And so they say, well, we want that too, but we just want to spend a little bit less. And so if the argument becomes we are big government light versus just really big government, voters are going to vote for the big government solution every day. So here's the contrast, is that the left offers, quote, free stuff. We offer freedom. And they can't compete if we fight on the basis of what freedom means. And we have to seize our own high ground and fight from a position of strength, not from a position of weakness. And that's really the key thing, is that we always try to offer the less expensive version, and we buy into the left's worldview, where our worldview is different. One of the points I made in this editorial was, if we really want to win the fight on identity politics, cancel culture, and it's true of the baseball debate happening now, is we've got to go back to what our founders talked about in terms of human dignity, the value of every person. The American idea is still radical and revolutionary. And the idea is that our rights don't come from the state. They don't come from your political party, your ethnicity. They come from what our founders described as natural law, or nature's God. And that idea is an aberration in history. It's an exception. And that's why America is exceptional. So while I agree with President Trump that we need to have a wall, we need to have a strong immigration system, we're ultimately not defined by our borders, but by our beliefs. And so we've got to go back to these basic points about what freedom is all about, because that is the high ground. That's the way we win these arguments with the public.
Okay, I love all that. How do you do that? Give me an example. Give me one more example. You threw a few in there. Give me one more example, very clear, of how the Democrats, here's one issue, and here's what the Democrats, how they frame it, and here's how Republicans have been framing it, and here's how we should frame it instead.
Sure.
Give me a tutorial on this.
Well, there's a lot of. I'll give you two quick ones. I think one that's current is the issue of climate. Okay, so President Trump said, look, climate change is not a hoax. The vast majority of Republicans now will acknowledge, yes, there's some changes to the climate, humans are contributing to it, but the answer is to not empower government. It's not to give government all this new authority. It's to give individuals in the free market more authority. But we're so afraid of that topic. We're afraid that if we somehow acknowledge, as President Trump has done, that climate change is not a hoax, that we're somehow surrendering or approaching Al Gore with bended knee. And that's not at all the case, is that free economies are clean economies. So we have an incredible story of freedom and innovation and opportunity to describe just in that one issue area. And if we get that issue wrong, we lose a whole generation. We lose capitalism. So that's an area that we have to fight in. And the answer, again, is bottom up. It's not top-down solutions. I think another one from just 10 years ago was earmarks, the bridge to nowhere. I worked for Tom Coburn. The left would argue, look, we need to spend more money. That's the way you help people, is to grow government, to spend more money, to have earmarks. And we said, no, if you really want to care about people, you really want to help people, you spend less money. The compassionate, effective member is not the member that sends money back to the district. It's the one who prevents money from leaving your pocket and the district in the first place. Because the free enterprise system, capitalism, is a much more compassionate, much more effective agent of change and help. The invisible hand of the market is a lot more compassionate than the heavy hand of government. And that's the argument we fought. We won that. We actually made progress and not only got rid of earmarks, but we reduced the size of government. I mean, that's like making a river run backwards. And so these are not sort of theoretical ideas. These are principles that have been tried, and when implemented, they actually work. So it depends on how far back in history you want to go, but those are a couple of examples.
Sure, no, those are great examples. I'm imagining, as I've done a million times, talking to a progressive or a Democrat or whoever about these bottom-up solutions, right? These free market solutions, whether it's to climate or anything. We could just focus on climate. But people are so ingrained with this idea that free market equals polluters, right? That the free market equals that we're going to throw toxic sludge into the river. There's so much distrust, right? Conservatives have distrust in the media, and the left has distrust in the free market.
Right.
So I don't know what I'm asking. I don't know if you want to give me some specific examples of how bottom-up works or how we approach people's distrust when it comes to free markets.
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. I think one is this is really basic, but storytelling and telling stories and narrative and relationships is when people on the left and right sit down and actually talk to each other, they discover that a lot of what is dividing us is a total illusion, and that it's sort of fight theater, it's sort of conflict theater, and when you're able to communicate with somebody just face to face in a normal interaction, you're able to discover a lot of commonality. So I think as conservatives, anything we can do to facilitate normal dialogue is a good thing, because look, my view is if you're confident in your ideas, you should welcome as much debate as possible. You should expose your own arguments to being disproven, because that's how we arrive at truth. I mean, that's what Milton wrote back 400 years ago, which influenced our founders. You know, whenever truth and falsity are allowed to grapple freely, whoever knew truth to be penned in a free and open exchange. And so that's sort of the high level point here. But in terms of the issue of just to stick with the issue of the environment, there are so many examples of free enterprise, free market innovators doing clean energy where the government isn't telling them what to do. And one of the biggest obstacles is government regulation. So how is it compassionate? How is it effective? How is it good for the environment to tell somebody with a new invention that, yeah, it's great that you've spent all this time and money on this, but it's going to take you 7 years to bring this innovation to market? I mean, that's insane. Why on earth would anybody waste their time innovating if they can't get things through? And the best environmentalists are farmers. I've got 62 acres where I live. Like, I'm taking care of my land because I believe in leaving things better off for my kids than I found them. And 99% of conservatives are nodding and say, absolutely, that's how we think of the world. Whether you believe in a creator, whether you think the world just happened to get here, it's kind of miraculous that it's here. And so I think a lot of it is just telling the story. Like, we've got a news magazine where we tell these stories, where we cover these examples, where we tell stories of businesses, entrepreneurs. There are so many examples of people doing incredible things in the free enterprise system, whether it's with climate, whether it's with anything, that is so much more inspiring and uplifting than what the government's doing. And so, but we just don't tell those stories as often as we should, and as aggressively as we should.
That's right. Otherwise, and if you don't, in the absence of that, a $3 trillion infrastructure bill sounds big, immediate, important, and wonderful.
Right.
When we don't have any other alternative suggested. Where do people find those stories, John?
Yeah, it's go to c3newsmag.com, or our organization is called the Conservative Coalition for Climate Solutions. Those are two places to go. c3solutions.org, where you can.
What was the website again? You said what was the first one? Newsmag.
C3 Newsmag. c3newsmag.com.
Okay, we need to be armed with these stories, because you're right. Storytelling is the antidote to, mindless government rhetoric to fill that void. John, we got to run. I appreciate your work. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Yeah, good to be on. Thanks.
John Hart, again, c3newsmag.com. I look forward to checking that out. Mike Slater, spread the word. Hey, Hey, Slater Crusaders, you should never send your kid to a public school ever again. And I have a million arguments to make for that. We don't have time for all of them right now. But it's so weird to hear conservatives like, hurry up, open up our schools. It's like, why? Why do you want these public schools open? So they can, hurry up, I need my kids to be indoctrinated quickly, as soon as possible. They need to get all the Marxist propaganda they can fit in their little brains. Hans Feeney, he said, in the last year, I've gone from lightly supporting vouchers programs to vociferously supporting the complete, utter, and eternal destruction of public schools. I share that as well. Let's go to Seattle School District. They sent out a questionnaire to their parents. It says, what does your family need to return to in-person learning? And one of the options was, school has a clear commitment to addressing racism and bias. No, I'm not going to drop my kid off at the public school until you knock it off with all the obsession of race and supposed bias. Ari Hoffman's here from the Post Millennial. How are you, Ari?
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, brother. I want to talk about something specific with the Seattle School District in just a minute, but what do you just think about public schools in general and the wokeness within them?
My kids go to private school, so I'm off the hook with regards to that. And I actually think there should be a fund, if one doesn't exist already, to get as many kids out of public school and into private school that can afford it as possible. There should be a national push for vouchers, but that's not going to happen under this administration. So states need to take it into their own hands. If you ever wanted to illustrate the failure of the public school system, all you got to do is look back on the last year. Look at what's going on in California right now, where these school boards still don't want to open, where these teachers' unions still don't want to open. Tell me, has there been a single case of a super spreader outbreak event in any of the private or charter schools that have been open all year? So in California, you can go to Six Flags, you can go to Disneyland, but you can't go to school.
Yep. We just talked in the last segment with someone about how Republicans need to really win back power and messaging and all the rest. There are winning issues that Republicans are scared to stand up about. And one of them is, well, not castrating children. That's one. That's what we kicked off the show with. Voter ID, that is a winner. That is a policy winner. And school choice, school vouchers is like a dominating winner among the American people. And Republicans are scared to touch on. Let's talk about what's this one particular story of Seattle public schools and a homeless encampment that's around them, or even, is it on district property? Did I read that right?
It's literally on the property. Now, according to the school board president, no, it's not, because she can't read a property line map, which shows that it's literally on the property. And this also illustrates the fact that they don't care about protected wetlands either. As you can see in that picture, it's actually on a protected wetland. So they're polluting the area. They have these dead rats tied to sticks. They had a person overdose and lay there in the street for hours before anybody did anything about it. They don't want to handle this at all. They don't want to deal with it. In fact, quite the contrary. The school board is telling the mayor and the city council, don't you dare sweep out any of these encampments. You have to leave them there. And then just yesterday, on Monday, these parents were there handing out flyers and leaflets about what was going on to all the parents who were there for the first time in over a year. And the school board president threatened them with trespassing, but won't do anything about the homeless encampment on the property.
Wow, so the parents who are trying to raise support to get rid of this, they're the criminals. They're the ones who gotta go, but not the people trespassing. That's amazing. What is, Ari? I was thinking back in the day. I feel like a couple dads would have gotten together and just gone to the homeless encampment and be like, "Hey guys, get out of here! Like, go! You gotta go! Like, you can't stay here. Our kids are here. My little girl walks to school here. Go." Why don't we do that anymore?
Odds are they would be prosecuted. That's probably what would happen, because the law only works one way these days. Years ago, I had a problem at the Jewish cemeteries, which I'm on the board for, where you had homeless people camping there, doing drugs, running prostitute rings, overdosing on the graves. So what I did is, because I'm Jewish, I brought in former members of the Israeli Defense Forces to patrol the cemetery, and our problems magically went away. Now, mind you, the politicians and the people that be called the police on me and sent the police after me, because how dare I protect private property? So that's exactly how this would end.
What state are you? Are you in Seattle?
Yeah, I'm in Washington State, in Seattle, and
Yeah.
I've lived here for 18 years. It's not getting any better.
It's amazing. So what would you recommend these parents do now?
I would recommend they yank all their kids immediately. I would recommend they all get together and say we're pushing for a charter amendment. Now, the other problem is that even if you yanked every single kid out of the school, you still have the problem for the neighbors, and that is mostly an elderly and family area that one school that you were showing the pictures of is happening in. Now, the other school this is happening at, because it's at 2 properties that we know of, not all the schools are back in session yet, and not everybody has sent me their emails. But the other one is right near the former autonomous zone. So you can't expect anything to change over there either, because that place is fully radicalized.
I got 1 minute. What's the ideology that progressives have when it comes towards homeless people as to why, again, the fathers are getting charged with trespassing, but the homeless people aren't? What's the ideology behind this?
They believe that if you want them to be in treatment, to be in shelter, to be in any of that, you are a racist, bigot, and you are not compassionate. That is their methodology. They want this out there. They want them on the streets. And they figure if they keep doing that, you'll vote them enough tax dollars so they go fix the problem.
Yeah, so if you let homeless people be on the street, that's the compassionate thing to do.
Exactly.
Wow,
that's what they keep saying.
Warped. Yeah, that's so warped. Ari Hoffman, you're the man, post-millennial. Thanks for sharing the story.
Anytime, buddy. You have a good one.
Appreciate you, brother. Great job. Ari Hoffman, post-millennial. That's amazing. Letting a homeless person spiral darker and deeper into their mental illness and addiction is seen as the compassionate thing. But again, as we talked about in the last segment or 2 segments ago, Republicans are seen as mean and Democrats are nice. Isn't that amazing? And facts, unfortunately, don't matter. Coming up on tomorrow's show, I want to talk specifically about Section 230 when it comes to social media companies. The Supreme Court ruled on this issue. I don't get it at all, but we got some great guests to help explain that for us tomorrow. True story. Mike Slater, spread the word.